So you've got a story idea, and you've decided you're going to write it down, but you're not entirely sure where to start your story. That's probably one of the most important questions that writers ask themselves every time they sit down to write something new. The answer is deceptively easy. Start at the beginning. And that is where the simplicity of that answer begins and ends. Because starting at the beginning of a story is probably one of the most difficult things you can do as a writer. Because you don't want to start too soon in the story, and you don't want to start too late. Because if you start too soon, you're not going to engage the reader, because you're adding a whole bunch of fluff to the beginning of the story that people don't necessarily want to read through. But if you start too late, you'll leave your readers confused. They don't know what's going on. So you really have to think about exactly where you want to start your story. But no matter where you start your story, it's best to begin with a question. Now, this question doesn't have to be world-altering. It doesn't have to be the question that drives the entire book. But it has to be enough to intrigue your reader and make them want to continue reading until they figure out what's going on. So let me give an example. And since I'm a Star Wars nut, I'm going to start with Star Wars: A New Hope. Star Wars: A New Hope begins with two ships flying through space. A very small ship and a much larger ship. And obviously, the larger ship is chasing the smaller ship and shooting at the smaller ship. The smaller ship is shooting back. Then we cut to the inside of the ship, where everyone's running around and they're panicked. And then we see Leia leaning over a robot. And the movie continues from there. This opening scene poses a lot of questions. Why is the bigger ship chasing the smaller ship? Who's the lady who bends over the droid? Why is everybody panicking? What's going to happen next? While we aren't given a lot of direct details at the beginning of the movie, we're given enough details to fill in what's going on and to pose questions that make us want to continue watching. And those questions are answered shortly afterwards, but those questions also set up bigger questions that make us want to continue watching further into the movie. And your story should do the exact same thing. Now, with all that said, I would challenge you to do two things with the beginning of your story. One, start as close as possible to what's called the inciting incident. It's the thing that jumpstarts all the characters into the main story. In Star Wars, it's literally the Empire catching up with Leia's ship and boarding it. And two, I want you to make sure that you write your scene in such a way that it will pose questions that will make the reader continue to want to read. Now, obviously, this is a lot to try and accomplish if it's your first time writing. But also, it's easier to do because it's your first time writing. There's zero expectations for the story that you're trying to put down on paper. So have some fun with it. Try different beginnings. But at the very least, make sure that you start and continue writing for a little bit. Because it can be way too easy to get into the cycle of saying, no, I don't like that, I want to start again. So even if you're not entirely sure about the beginning you've chosen, play it out a little bit. See where it goes. You might wind up surprising yourself. I hope this video was interesting and that it provided a little bit of insight on where to begin your story. If you liked it, consider giving me a like and a follow, and stay tuned for many more videos like this. I've been writing for 10 years, so I have a lot of wealth of knowledge to share. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.